I'm Greg Kelly from Motorsports Innovations, and today I have a video for people who are purchasing a used race car with some kind of Racepak system, dash, whatever kind of setup on the car, and want to know what to look out for in the process of buying it. It's also an overview of each of the different systems, or most of the systems, not every one, and what to look out for, particularly when the car maybe came without the motor and what sensors belong with what, and how to get the system back in shape and what the different pieces might be worth to get it in that condition. The first dash kit I want to talk about is the Street Rod. Street Rod is part of the UDX family, and it's noted by its part number on the back, 250DX UDX SR, and the SR standing for Street Rod. For this dash or any other of the Racepak dashes, you can get full instructions downloaded off of racepak.com. The rest of the stuff that comes in the kit are a water temperature sensor, an oil temperature sensor, an oil pressure sensor, and the harness. These sensors are single wire sensors. The gray wire goes on water temperature and so on. The oil pressure does have two terminals, but one of them is a ground. And the single wire temperature and pressure sensors are more economical sensors than the V-net. These are 20 bucks a piece to replace. The oil pressure is 40 bucks to replace. The harness plugs in the back of the dash right here in this port. And should the harness be cut in a buying a used car situation with a motor removed, you can repair it with regular wire or get a new harness for 30 bucks. Likewise, the Street Rod can take in information from the vehicle mile per hour, signal light, and fuel pressure senders, and they're not Racepak pieces. Sometimes we'll find that there are V-net sensors hooked into the Street Rod. This is fuel pressure, and consists of two pieces in the world of V-net. It's the actual sender. To replace that is 179 bucks. And this is the V-net module, which has programmed into it that such and such pounds of fuel pressure equals this many volts in order to display it or log it. This wire would typically go through the firewall and go to the sensor, which in turn is screwed into the regulator to pick up the fuel pressure. And you would also probably need, and be wire tied in the car, an extension cable to run from the back of the dash to the sender module. Now, again, these V-nets are optional, and they may or not be on the car. These sensors are screwed into the engine block, and so if the engine's not in the car, you may be missing these sensors and they need to be replaced. Now, I said they're supposed to be screwed into the engine block. Actually, the oil pressure is not supposed to be screwed into the engine block, even though many guys do. It's supposed to be remote mounted. So the remote mount kit, or soft mount kit might be a better word for it, puts this in a clamp. You've got a rubber isolator to hold this here, your ground wire and such. And then you use a piece of AN3 line to connect the sensor to the engine block so that you eliminate the vibration from the sensor, which will kill it. In fact, that kind of soft mounting is required for the V-net sensors as well, because the engine block vibration, particularly oil pressure, will kill them as well. So that's the configuration for the Street Rod, and my little review on that. Next up is the replay. The next dash I want to talk about is the replay. Likewise, with the part number on the back, ends in RP for replay. The kit that comes from Racepak consists of the dash, the harness, the two single wire sensors, one being water temperature and one being oil pressure. A couple things that are different about the replay and ways to identify: it has the record button on the face to start the recording, and some of these buttons here for replaying the recording. Of course, it has the name replay because its function is to be able to replay the run so that you can see what your shift RPM and your trap RPM were, maybe oil pressure at some point in the run, that kind of thing. The has the same rules as the street rod with soft mounting. The oil pressure should not be permanently mounted into the engine block, although many guys do. Same replacement cost, $40 for the oil pressure sensor and $20 for the temperatures. Everything's the same as far as the V-net goes. V-net modules, you probably more common to find V-net modules in the replays. V-net modules plug into this plug. Another thing with the replay, it can be upgraded to a Logger Dash. It cannot be used in conjunction with a Sportsman or Racepak V300 logger, though. So that's the story with the replay. Next up will be the Logger Dash. The next dash in line is the Logger Dash, and continuing with the theme with the part number, the last three letters are LDX for Logger Dash. It looks identical to the replay on the front, so it does make it a little harder to identify without seeing that number. It's called the Logger Dash because it will log one run to be downloaded on a laptop to give you a graph just like you would get from a V300. It comes with the same harness we saw with the replay and the street rod, or maybe there's one or two wires different. The water temperature sensor and the oil pressure sensor, same one, $20 and $40 to replace. It does also come with shaft speed, so that consists of the collar, the sensor. There's also an L bracket for a 9-inch Ford. It's about $150 for all those things added together, 44, 88, and 19 for those things. So if the guy had swapped out the center section and didn't have these things in the car that you're getting, that would be expensive to replace. Something that's even more common for not to be in used car sales is this little puppy, is the security disc that you need in order to get those logs off. You can use it as a display without this, but to get the logs off you need this. Is $100 to replace this. Further, to get the logs off, you need these three cables. So this is the connector cable that goes in the back of the dash. Plugs in here. Let me get this in front of the camera. Plugs in there, locks. Now a lot of cars, the way they're set up is this is permanently mounted in the car, and this cable comes through and is permanently mounted in the dash or maybe wire tied just below, so that when it comes time to download a run, you would plug in this cable, goes in there, you plug this into your laptop, which of course nowadays most laptops don't have 9-pin serial connectors, so you need a USB converter. So those three cables together is another $100 that you want to get in your purchase of the Logger Dash. That wraps up the Logger, and next we'll move on to the UDX Display. The last dash that I want to do in the UDX family is the Display Dash. Its part number on the back is UDX without any trailing numbers. It's just a Display Dash. And they're all in the UDX family. A lot of times the guys will say, I have a UDX Dash, but now we've learned I got to know which one it is. Do you have a replay? Do you have a logger? Or do you have a display? Now this is everything you get in the kit for the Display Dash. It's $649, and you're saying there watching this YouTube video is, well, where are the sensors? A display dash needs a logger to gather the sensor information. So here we have a Racepak Sportsman and its harness with the power in the ground and the tack wire. Actually, there's another part of the harness that goes for the dry shaft sensor in the rear. So we've got that in the mix. Well, that's good. We still don't have any sensors. Well, what we need is we need to hook a V-neck cable in. So if this is a door car with the Sportsman mounted behind the passenger seat, this would be a 9-foot V-neck cable that would hook in here and run up to the front of the car and connect here. If I could get them to connect. And now the dash and the Sportsman are connected. Alright, well that's good. We still don't have any sensors. Okay, so this is V-net water temperature and V-net oil pressure sensors. The water temperature sensor is not a single wire. None of these sensors are. This is a V-net. So this is the water temperature sensor. That will be screwed into the intake manifold up in the front, 1/8-inch pipe. That's $50 to replace. The V-net module, like we talked about before in the V-net module, is part of the V-net network. Plugs in here. Oil pressure, same deal we talked about before. This is the sender that you don't screw into the engine block. $179 to replace that. This snap locks onto the rest of the V-net modules. And there should be a cap here, which I misplaced somewhere. So the idea is the sensors report their data into the Sportsman logger, and then in turn it gets displayed on the dash. There isn't a security key for the Sportsman. You don't have to worry about that. So if you get one of these kinds of kits, it's the individual senders. You want to worry about those if they're in the motor and you don't get the motor. Obviously, you'd like to say, does the Sportsman work? Is that a known thing, tested and so on as part of the car purchase? But that would be your main concern. And then just for the point of conversation is everything I just said is identical if we take the Sportsman away and put a V300 SD in it, a bigger harness because it uses all shielded cable. But the same concept with our 9-foot cable has to plug in here. This would lead to our sensors. Same concept that the sensors feed the V300, which in turn displays whatever information that it has onto the dash. The V300 SD does have a security disc, $100 to replace. So you always want to ask for this. Even if you have a Sportsman, the guy can say, no, we don't need that. So that's a display. And next up, we'll switch to the land of IQ3. The next dash I wanted to talk about is the IQ3. So the IQ3 is a whole different family. This is the IQ3 Display. Has a part number in the back. IQ3 Display is actually said there in text. The part number just says IQ3. It's pretty much the same concept as what we saw with the UDX Display. That is, your whole kit for $649 is the dash, a cable to get to some sensors, which don't come with the kit. One thing is a little bit different is you do have a small harness here that's used to control the brightness of the backlight and to switch screens, which on the UDX family was on those buttons on the side. So to get sensor data into your IQ3, it's the same rules we said. You need a Sportsman logger, you need your V-net modules, You cannot use single wire sensors with this system. So your minimum configuration would be the oil pressure sensor. You would have the water temperature sensor. The same thing I talked about before with a shaft collar, with a sportsman kit, the sensor and the L bracket that goes in the back. All that is the same as the display. And we take that away, put the V300 in, and the concept is the same. The V300 has the ability to bring in 37 channels of data as compared to the Sportsman at 6 for the VNet portion of things. So we know the V300 is more powerful. Both of them can record lots and lots of runs, 50 runs, 100 runs. You could probably fit on the SD card. You want to clean them off before that, and you don't have to download each one separately. You can wait until the end of the night if you're hot lapping or whatever and pull them all off at once. So that's a display. A lot of people call this the Road Race Dash. It can be easily programmed for drag racing. I have one in my car. I think it's a little bit cooler than the UDX, and it's definitely smaller this way. Fits much better in a dragster dash. At least it did in mine. The UDX would not have worked. So that's the IQ3 display, and I'll do the IQ3 Logger next. The last dash I wanted to talk about today is an IQ3. It's called the IQ3 Logger Dash. It does not have any part numbers at all on the back, but it does have the terminal for the GPS. Yeah, that's right, I said GPS. This is the GPS antenna. The IQ3 Logger Dash is designed for tractor pull and boats and road race cars where the GPS is legal and useful. The GPS is not legal in any kind of NHRA racing, so it's not common to find it on drag racing cars. It's called a logger because it will log. It will log one run of all your various sensor data that you may have. It also includes G meters in it and a tack pickup, and it records to this micro SD card, which you then put into the regular SD to put it in your computer. And like I said, it goes in here for recording. That's another way to tell that it's the IQ3 Logger Dash. The GPS antenna, the small harness to give you the power and the ground, the tack signal, and the dimming of the lights that we may have. In the tractor pull and some of the road race environment, a box that we see is called the USM. And the USM is a VNet box, and it takes each of the sensors, so we could have our oil pressure and water temperature sensor connected with straight cables into this box, and this is like 4 VNet modules that would go back via a VNet cable to the back of the dash. So we put in shaft speeds and temperatures and pressures and all kinds of things into the IQ3 via the USM box, or we can do it with conventional VNet modules. ADGTs, it's popular with the blown alcohol tractor pull. Another example of a common sensor for tractor pull is throttle position, and it looks like a mini shock travel sensor, and that wires in to the USM via just a short, or maybe not so short, up to 12 feet connector cable. And so all the same VNet rules, same rules for mounting the sensors, $179 for any kind of pressure sensor, $50 for the liquid temperature sensors. You want to make sure they're in the car or taken out of the motor if you're not buying it with the car. And the SD card, if it comes with that, and the SD converter for the micro SD. So I'll move this stuff away. So there is your with the only cables being this, and you do get a software disc and a documentation disc with it also. So that's the end of Racepak Display Dash class for today, and hope it was informative. If you have any questions, my number is 609-265-2110, Greg Kelly, or check out my website, www.motorsportsinnovations.com. All the stuff is on Racepak's website, racepak.com, and you can download documentation on probably 99% of these different devices from their website. If the one you're looking for isn't there, give me a call. I'll email it or US mail you the CD that has a particular documentation you're looking for.